This is the plaintiff, Rachel Janak. She says the defendant is her ex-boyfriend, and she foolishly loaned him money to fight a custody battle he was having with his ex. 1 week later, after giving him the money, the guy blocked her. She never thought she would be treated like this by someone she was dating, and is here suing him for the $2,500 she's owed. This is the defendant, Eric Jensen. He says the plaintiff gave him the money and told him he didn't have to pay it back. After she gave him the money, she started acting very strangely, and things became weird between them, and he split up with her. Now she's mad at him. She's being spiteful. That's the only reason she's suing him for the gift she gave him. He's accused of dissing an ex.
All parties, please raise your right hands. People's Court is now in session. The Honorable Judge Marilyn Milian is now presiding. Litigants have been sworn, Your Honor.
Thank you, Douglas. Okay, Ms. Janak, talk to me. How is it that you met the defendant, Mr. Jensen?
We both work in the entertainment industry. I am an actor. He is on the production side of the business, and I was doing background work on a television show. We connected via social media after I had been to an open call audition in Poughkeepsie, which is where he lives, for a TV show that he was doing production work on.
Okay, and how long did you date? You folks met in April of 2019?
Our first meeting was in April, yep.
And how long were you dating before you forked over $2,500?
Foolishly, only about 5 weeks.
All right, and were you exclusive?
I was at the time. I was under the assumption that he was.
Yeah, but did you know whether he was exclusive? You thought he was?
I thought he was. Mm-hmm.
All right, how often would you see each other?
I made between half a dozen and a dozen trips down to Poughkeepsie from where I currently reside in Schenectady between April and June while we were dating.
Okay.
And that's really the only time that I would see him.
All right, so how is it that, did he ever go to see you in Schenectady?
No.
Okay, because that's the first clue we have, right? When, you know what I mean? Okay.
I know.
So let me ask you a question. How is it that the subject of loaning him money came up?
He had mentioned before we went on a weekend trip for Memorial Weekend to visit two of my best friends, he had mentioned that he was in a custody battle with his ex and that it was getting very nasty and that he at the time didn't have money to pay for the lawyer to go to court. It was kind of brought up in passing. We didn't really talk about it again. Went away for the weekend, and then a few days later it came back up again, and I basically made it clear that I would be happy to loan him the money so long as and under the only condition that he paid it back to me.
Paid it back to you when?
Oddly, we never had that discussion. He had mentioned that he was working on a book deal, which he had provided me a sample chapter of to provide some feedback. And he had mentioned that he was working on a book deal that he expected to be getting paid from sometime at the end of June, and that he would pay me back.
Okay, was he working at the time you were dating him?
Yes.
Okay, so he wasn't out of a job at any point in time that you know of?
Not that I can recall. I knew he was working for a couple of production studios.
Did she loan you $2,500, Mr. Jensen?
Yes, she did give it to me, but there was no exact time and date to give it back to her. And it was also said that it was no rush. Don't worry about it. Take care of what you got to take care of. And when you get back on your feet and you're in a better financial standpoint, then we could work something out. But there was never a date, a time frame, or anything like that.
Listen. Tell me what you do for a living.
I'm a technical consultant. I work with writers, producers, directors in the film and television industry. I was working at the time. I just didn't have enough funds because I just moved into a new place. And work, as a lot of us know it in the entertainment business, comes and goes. So sometimes I have a month, 2 months off. So my nest egg was non-existent. So yes,
okay.
She
Do you work as an actor, or have you worked as an actor also?
Yes, I have an escape at Denimora. I was an actor.
Yeah, who did you play in that?
I played a Nazi who starts a riot.
Okay. So at the time, were you dating her?
I didn't see it like that. I mean, we you know, it was casual. It was casual.
Okay. And tell me how the subject of taking $2,500 from someone you're seeing casually comes up.
Well, it was, it was a very awkward conversation because I don't ever like asking anybody for help, but I was going through something in family court and I did need money. And I didn't come out and ask her. She actually offered to give me the money. So it wasn't like I asked her to borrow money. She offered it to me.
Yeah, I understand. And then you took it, though, right? And the idea is that you're supposed to pay it back.
Correct.
It's been now how long, Mr. Jensen? Because you're not saying it was a gift. You know you're supposed to pay it back when you can. How long has it been?
Correct. I believe it was June, so it's been about 13 months, I believe. I haven't been able to have contact.
Yeah, have you worked in 13 months? Have you worked?
Yes.
Yeah, right? So I think you can pay it back. Why have you not paid it back?
From my understanding is that she wasn't willing to work out any kind of payment arrangement with me. It was either all or nothing.
Right, but see, if 13 months have passed, you could have had a little box where you put your little payments into, and then you could have paid the whole thing off. So I'm trying to understand how it is that after 13 months, you have not paid her back. It's one thing if you dumped her the day after she gave you the money, and oh, by the way, how did you two stop dating?
So I had made a trip down to celebrate his birthday with him on June 3rd. His birthday is June 4th, and sent him gifts that following weekend. I had also made plans to take him on a surprise birthday dinner for June 5th, per his request that was the evening that I was allowed to make plans, at which point he had some other thing going on with family court and had no sense of urgency to get home. There was a miscommunication between us about the fact that I had planned something as a surprise, so he was allegedly unaware that I had made plans for us that evening. So I canceled the reservations and chose not to go down to visit him. That would have been June 5th. And then the very next time that we saw each other was about a week later, June 13th. I drove down to visit him, and I could tell that the chemistry had changed. It was a little different. There was not as much of a connection there. I slept on the couch.
And this was how long after you had forked over $2,500, remind me?
2 weeks.
Oh, sometimes they're just not that into us, and the signs are all there beforehand. Unless you can afford to let $2,500 go, there's truly no reason for you to be loaning a guy you just met $2,500, because we have a name for people who do that, and we call them litigants. You see, you keep me in business. So I hope that you've learned a lesson by this, and you realize that you were kind of being used, I think. I think it's pretty evident that you were being used. You know, when he says, oh, I had no way to reach her, I'm not sure what that means, because I see a series of texts where she's trying to reach you to get you to not be a deadbeat and pay back the money that you owe her, and you're completely ghosting her. So, and except for the one time where you say, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm going to keep up my end of the bargain, which of course we all know you didn't, because 13 stinking months passed, and you've been working, and you haven't paid her one penny. Not one penny in all this time. You're going to tell me that in a year you couldn't save up the money to pay her?
Well, Your Honor, I haven't worked in 6 months due to this COVID-19 here in New York. Also, it wasn't factual like she said. It is weird things started happening. It wasn't that I just ghosted or anything like that, and I didn't want to give her the money back, but there was times where I'd come home, she'd be outside of my house, late night coming through, parking in my parking spots. And it was weird. It was weird. So that, in fact, is what, kind of like.
So she was kind of stalking you?
Weird, yes.
How far did she live from you?
About an hour, 20 minutes, I believe.
So finding her unexpectedly in front of you, in your parking lot would be kind of weird.
Yes, yes.
All the more reason to want to get rid of her and pay her off, right? Pay what you owe her and then not have anything further to do, right?
True, true.
Yeah, but that's not what you did.
No, my financial situation hasn't been the best in the last year.
Did you ever tell him you wouldn't take payments, ma'am?
We never had a formal discussion about it. I did try to reach out to him in, I believe it was the end of September in that string of messages, where he had mentioned that he was going to uphold his end of the deal. And I said, you haven't tried to make a payment plan or anything like that. So it's not that I was unwilling to have that conversation, nor was I unwilling to accept.
You never told him you weren't willing to take a payment plan. He never told you I'll make payments, and you never told him I need payments, and you never said I won't accept payments, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Here's the communication between you two. The money I loaned you, she says, and you still haven't paid me back. I've been trying to reach you for months to no avail. According to the last direct message you sent me, you have this new number which explains why my numerous texts never successfully reached you. And then you say, huh? You gave me that money and said when I get right to give it back to you. Well, I guess you're gonna have to get online. Baby mamas took me to the cleaners. And still dealing with the IRS, lost my condo and got into a really bad car accident 2 months ago, so we can work something out, but honestly, I don't have anything right now. To which she responds, and you said you were getting a check from your book a month ago. A month later, bro, it's been almost 9 months later. You've been flat out ignoring me since basically your birthday, avoiding any discussion about it. You could have hit me with a payment plan for God's sake. Where is it that she says that she won't take a payment plan? Because truly, it's just starting to look like you're the deadbeat I thought you were. I am finding in favor of the plaintiff. And let me tell you something. It breaks my heart to find in your favor. You and all the other people out there like you, who are usually the women, okay? Every once in 100, it'll be a man. And it does because I think you need a $2,500 lesson. But my obligation sitting here as a judge is to follow the law. And if it's a loan, it's a loan. And so long as I find that all this time has passed and somehow he lies and says that you wouldn't take a payment plan when I can see in the text that you never said that he just doesn't feel like paying you a penny, then if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And you're just the kind of guy who takes money from a girl he's dating and then ghosts. Maybe he even changed his number after that. I don't know. But it is inexcusable that you haven't paid a single penny in 13 months. And I find that you can have paid in these 13 months. Verdict for the plaintiff.
Well, the plaintiff gets her money finally from the defendant, Mr. Jensen. Mr. Jensen, let me talk to you for a moment. The judge just kind of slammed you, gave you quite a lecture. You're a deadbeat in her mind. What do you think about what she said to you?
Well, I mean, she offered me the money, you know, and I told her when I get on my feet in a better financial situation, I would give it back to her. And I haven't been in a better financial situation, so there was no way for me to give it back to her. It doesn't make me
That's quite a
deadbeat.
Quite a sob story. Quite a sob story you had for her. The judge thinks you could have given her something, but 2 weeks after she gave you the money, it was all over? Wow, what a shame. Anyway, that's what the judge thinks of you, and it's not very nice. Okay, sorry about that. You owe her the money. Ms. Janak, let me ask you something. The big question here is, have you finally learned a lesson? Hopefully you have.
Absolutely.
All right. It's all over now, right? It's just over, right? No connection with him anymore. Is that right?
That's correct. Absolutely. I mean, I've definitely taken the judge's words to heart, and I've had 13 months to learn that lesson on my own, and then she just reinforced it. So,
do you feel like a fool?
Oh, 1,000%. I feel like I'm a stupid girl who fell for a stupid boy.
Well, then you did learn a good lesson. All right. Thank you very much. Congratulations. You're going to get your $2,500 back. Okay, now let's join Judge Millian and Judge John, her husband, for another session of After the Verdict. Here they are.
Marilyn, you sounded a little bit exasperated, as if you've kind of heard this story before.
Oh, you think? Yeah, this comes up a lot, and it almost always is the woman, and it frustrates me as a woman. And it's just, you know, people do things for love, and that's fine. But if somebody you just met is hitting you up for money, that's a pretty clear signal that he doesn't really care. Because if he did, he would leave that little part of his life out of it.
And certainly as a judge, you're always a little bit more impressed when somebody's making an effort. It's like, well, yeah, you're kind of down on your luck. Maybe COVID's hurt, or you haven't had as much work as you normally have. But you expect people to say, here, let me give you something. Let's see if we can get the ball rolling. Maybe we can make a payment plan. And when you don't see any of that, it's tough.
Right.
And in cases in the criminal courts where restitution is owed, for example, I would sometimes look at people and say, look, this restitution has to be made to make the victim of this incident or this crime whole. And that means you can't have unnecessary luxuries like a cell phone.
Right.
Air conditioning.
Well, air conditioning in Florida is a necessity. But that's the thing, because the crux of this case is he says, oh, when I got back on my feet is when I'd pay her. No, what he said to her exactly was, I'll pay you as soon as I can.
Right.
Well, as soon as you can doesn't mean that you have, the next 5 decades to pay her back. That's a gift. That's not a loan.
13 months is a long time.
Plenty of time.
I don't think the bank would be amused.
No, exactly.
Pay them in that
Plenty of time. And it's just inexcusable that he's paid zero to her. He just thought he'd just get rid of her.
Well, here's hoping she learned her lesson.
And others do too.
Right.
Beverly, look, if you don't have insurance, that's a violation of law, but it has nothing to do with the fact that a drunk driver hit your parked car. You absolutely, positively, unquestionably, undeniably have a right to sue that drunk driver and get your money back. By the way, if he was drunk, throw in punitive damages. That'll do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.